If you don't get a tunnel, plan B for you folks is a surface option. That is to say, take the thing down and try and accommodate the traffic on streets. That gets the manufacturing and freight people all worked
absolutely.
up.
It would be akin to the decision that San Francisco made 20 years ago not to have an active port.
And my question, before you go into that, do you acknowledge that it would really change the economics of the city?
Absolutely.
And is that worth the price?
A city is a place for people. It is not primarily a place to jam traffic through. And we're trying to build a city that will be sustainable for many generations. I believe very strongly that capacity is needed, but it absolutely has to be done in the context of the city in which it's located. And this city, with that harbor and all of the assets that we have, the physical beauty of this city and how important that is to our economy itself, it's got to be done right. And you aren't going to put another 1950 era, wider, uglier, elevated highway along that waterfront. It just is wrong.
But if you're forced to do some kind of surface alternative, because if you don't get tunnel, you're not going to do rebuild, so that's where the discussion goes. You acknowledge that would change the economy.
It would change
our
the economy.
port, and that's the direction we
go.
Like
San Francisco, we would do fine, but there are 120,000 manufacturing and industrial and maritime jobs in this city, and many of those would go away. They would move either to other parts of the region or they would go away. That's why I'm fighting as hard as I am for the tunnel.
To the phones, George in Beacon Hill is on the line. Welcome, George.
Hi. It seemed to me that the mayor said a lot about things that would make the schools better, but when I-88 was on the ballot, it seemed to me that the mayor's office was first amongst equals in trying to stamp out the funding that the school district was trying to raise in order to solve the very same problems that he was just enumerating.
Let's get a response.
Yes. First of all, I think the primary issue right now in front of the schools is leadership. A strong superintendent, a united board, and a community supporting that board. And I think that is missing. And that needs to come first. Second, I think we have a culture of low expectations in Seattle Public Schools. Because of that culture of low expectations, parents can't be confident that their neighborhood school is the best choice for their child, and so we have all of this school shopping that goes on throughout the city. We have parents who decide before they ever step foot in a Seattle public school, they're going to move to the suburbs and put their kids in those districts. We have parents who can afford it without ever stepping foot in a Seattle public school, decide to put their kids in private schools. We need to change the confidence that people have in the schools, that any school in their neighborhood, in every neighborhood, is going to give their child an excellent education. That confidence needs to happen first. Then I would acknowledge that the state needs to step up. Right now, according to the Seattle school superintendent, we're 42nd in the nation among states in what we put into our children's education. We're just behind Nebraska and just ahead of Alabama. We ought to be in the top 10. We ought to insist of every legislative candidate and the governor and all the statewide elected officials that they pledge we're in the top 10 by 2010, and they find a way to accomplish that. But it isn't entirely a money issue. What Initiative 88 proposed to do...
And this was on the September ballot.
It was on the September ballot, and it was a city initiative. And it said that for the first time in history, the city would have a role in funding not support services for the kids, but classroom education. And that just is a fundamental change. The state constitution lays out education as the paramount duty of state government. That's where the accountability needs to be for those dollars. You pass that initiative, and fortunately the people of Seattle rejected it overwhelmingly, and all of a sudden you have muddled accountability, and that doesn't help you solve those other problems.
Here is what's on the mind of our first emailer tonight. Jeremy in West Seattle writes, I'm wondering whether the mayor plans on pushing for a ban on trans fats the way that New York City did recently. I think it would be a great boost to public health.
Well, New York has banned trans fats in restaurants in that city. We follow that very carefully. I've asked the Board of Health here in King County, which I chaired for 6 years when I was on the county council, to take a look at the issue of trans fats. I think before we ban them, that it's a little like recycling. So in recycling, we started out with education. So we taught people, how do you separate?
The use of temporaries. We have a number of temporaries on board. Many of them have been notified, and very valuable employees make a great contribution and help all of you as well as the utility. We're starting to reduce the use of temporaries. Again, miscellaneous is still a work in progress. It's a category that we need to get a little more definition working with each of your own divisions. But again, the outcomes, the results of this, significant overtime reduction, maintaining a high vacancy rate will impact all of us. Not a lot of vehicles deferred, and certainly many contracts will be deferred. So a lot more detail, a lot of other things on this, but I think this is the most important part of it that we wanted to share with you so that you could see what ideas you have as you're talking to your supervisors and your managers, and as we work with Dave Smith, Pam Smith-Graham, and some of the managers on firming this up and putting it into a better, tighter context. That's some of the impacts that you can see happening. Yes, sir.
I'm fairly new to the utility. I've only been here a couple of years. But one of the things I want to make a request. Don't cut the people in the field that actually do the work. You're going to make personnel cuts, cut them in the key tower. I mean, we have a situation where we have a one journeyman and one apprentice ratio that we're required to maintain. There's a lot of times we can't maintain that because there's not enough journeymen.
Yeah, and I absolutely respect that. That was a very difficult decision for us. We brought on 22 apprentices just about a month ago or 45 days ago, and we thought long and hard about that. We knew that we were pushing the ratios, but we still think this is a short-term problem, and we don't want to, we still want to at least look ahead. Respect your input.
So what's going to happen after we sit on our butts for a year or two and catch up with all the money? Then we got to
Probably get fatter, Yes, sir.
OMB, or I'm not sure what they're calling themselves now, used to have a nasty habit of, if you left a position vacant long enough, they wouldn't let you fill it anymore. So
that was when I worked in OMB.
We're making a.
we're aware of that.
Yeah, we're not looking to eliminate the positions even. We're trying to hold them as vacancies and keep the authority to fill them for a later date. You buy it.
Well, just the last couple of thoughts. I know this isn't the most pleasant presentation we've ever made. Seattle City Light is not going out of business. We're not selling our generation. All of the things that we've had as values, all of the things that have worked well for us will continue to work well for us. I wish the people in California would get their act together, because that would help us a great deal and we'd get out from under this much more quickly. It is going to rain again in the Northwest. It may not be the rest of this year. I guess maybe we can all get out and play golf or do whatever we do outside and enjoy it as best we can. But this isn't the end of the world. This isn't the end of public power in Seattle or anywhere in the Northwest. We've got a good future, and it is a real struggle. I wish it was. I wish I had something else to deal with, because I think we really have a good strategy for our resources and for this utility. But it's going to be tough. And I think you all who see customers and people who ask you questions about what's going on, it's more than I can do to expect you be able to explain what's going on in California. I can't do it. I don't think the governor of that state can explain what's going on. But I think we can say we have a good strategy. And I think we need to maintain a good deal of optimism amongst ourselves and also with the customers. Who knows what the new Bush administration is going to require of electricity customers. I think people want to see some sense of stability and good customer service. It's going to be hard with all these kind of cuts. If we're cutting overtime for service connections, I know that people get angry with you. We're going to do the best we can to set the stage for that with the development community, but these are just things that have to be done. I think we will do a good job of focusing on budget reductions where the utility can best handle them, but some of the things that we've gotten used to, I think, are going to change a little bit. So I know you all been working real hard. I know there's been a lot of overtime work. Maybe there's going to be a breather from some of that, and we're just going to have a strategy for coming out of it in a couple of years or maybe 3. Anything else?
We'd be getting a shower full of bumper stickers.
Well, I don't know what kind of bumper stickers, but I don't know that it's, I have some things that I'd like to say about California, but they probably don't go on public vehicles either, so. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've stood on your shoulders for 24 years. I appreciate it very much. And, the executive team from City Light that went through this with us, not just the energy crisis, but the last 8 years, you're first rate. You're a great group of folks. And contrary to what some folks may think, City Light is in no need of reform. It's in great hands, and it remains the premier electrical utility in the United States, bar none. Its record of accomplishment is, and it predates me by a long shot, but its record of accomplishment is just stunning. I'm very pleased to have had such a good run with all of you. Thanks a lot. Sitting here drinking huge amounts of water to try and stay in better composure than I was, but I think there's some food back there and we'll be here for a while, but thanks each and every one of you. This is great. You're the best.
How That was your first one. And if Bob Cunningham had been well enough, he would have been right in there with you on that. I just, no, it was great just how you had it all choreographed. That they had it on. It really came across well. And I kept saying to my people around me, what is Mike Clark up there? What's he doing? That's what they figured.
$5 and $12 a piece.
But they last longer,
They
and
last
they're
10
much
times
more
as
energy
longer.
efficient.
Right.
10
And
times as long,
10
longer.
times longer. So if it's, let's say this is on 3 hours a day, it'll last around 5 years.
Really?
Right.
Wow, that's very impressive. Okay.
And this is only 23 watts compared to the 100, so it's about 1/4 the less energy. Because watts is a measure of energy, so you're using 1/4 the amount of energy. So
well
it's-
worth it.
Exactly. Well, you know, there is one appliance that uses a lot more energy than lighting, and that is your hot water tank. And there's a couple things that you can do to make your hot water tank a little bit more efficient.
All right.
It looks like it's a pretty new tank, and so there will be insulation underneath this, so you don't need to wrap it.
All right.
That's really good. But you want to make sure that the temperature is set at 120 degrees.
Okay.
And
Is
behind-
that average or normal or?
Yes, that's
Okay.
that's 120. 130 is about way the highest end. Anything over that, and you're in danger of getting scalded.
Don't want that.
Don't want that. So behind this panel, there's actually two little thermostats, one up here and one down there. You want to make sure they're both set at 120.
120, okay.
Right.
All right.
The other thing you can do is you can put some pipe wrap around your hot and cold water pipes.
And the whole point, of course, is to hold the heat in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. And then I see that these are your heating ducts.
Right.
And you
Unwrapped.
Unwrapped, yes. Again, you want to use some insulation to wrap these.
It would save a fair amount of
Oh,
electricity.
absolutely, because there's a lot of heat loss. I mean, look at all these ducts around here. There's a lot of heat loss. So by the time they finally get up into your room, you know, you've lost as much as 20% of your heat out of these ducts. And there is no insulation up here in your ceiling between your
the rafters,
joists and
right.
the rafters, right?
All right.
So you want to get that insulated.
And that will make a huge difference?
You should feel a lot warmer floors and maybe save 10% off your gas bill.
Okay.
It makes a huge difference.
Well, I think next, I believe it's lunchtime.
Hey, that sounds great with
Okay,
me.
let's head upstairs.
All right, great. Thanks, Nancy.
The Nature Conservancy of Washington acknowledged Seattle City Light's efforts in the Skagit Basin, its habitat, its fish and wildlife protection efforts by awarding us their Public Agency of the Year award. And it was quite an honor for Seattle City Light because we work very hard to preserve areas like this, and it tells us that what we're doing is what we should be doing. It really confirms that what we're doing is the right thing.
Electric bills come every 2 months. This video explains several ways those in need can receive help paying those electric bills. Calling 206-684-3000 or visiting City Light's website will give you information about what help is available and whether you qualify. Some of these programs offer one-time immediate help paying a bill, while others are longer range and designed to bring down your bills now and in the future. Seattle residents have a legacy of a publicly built and owned utility, generating and delivering power from environmentally clean hydroelectric dams. But this year, an unusually dry winter forced City Light to buy electricity from much more expensive generation sources. That means higher bills for everyone.
How big is it? Ooh, ouch.
But seniors and people with disabilities may be eligible to get a discount on their electric bills and other city utilities, just as they get a discount on movie passes, bus fares, and airline tickets.
We understand that there are longtime homeowners out there who have paid their bills throughout the years, and now it's time for them to avail themselves to the programs and benefits that the city can offer them in terms of a reduction on their utility bills.
During the winter, we have to pay as high as $100. And with the subsidy, we have been paying a little more than $50 only. And for people like us with fixed limited income, it's a great help.
These people have been paying for this all along in our rate structure, and we've anticipated when they reach the age of 65, they will become members of this program. It's a senior discount, and we're hoping that people will call Seattle City Light at 684-3000 and ask about our senior discount program.
Contacting 206-684-3000 will start a senior or person with disabilities towards qualification for that discount. There are certain guidelines, so contacting City Light can get the application process started. This discount applies to all city utilities, electricity, as well as water, sewer, and garbage.
That deduction is a great help.
There's a similar help program for anyone who is low income. In addition to cutting utility bills in half, City Light may help pay for items that will reduce electricity needs for lighting and heating for low-income homeowners and renters.
You're going to fill the joists up with insulation. We can replace all these lights.
Yeah, they don't last long at all.
They're incandescents, and we'll use compact fluorescents.
Insulation, weatherization, and energy-efficient lighting are all covered by this program. The city even sends out an expert to go through a home or apartment to analyze the kinds of weatherization that make sense. These experts work with homeowners and apartment managers to determine what work is needed and how much of the cost can be reimbursed by City Light. But even if a low-income City Light customer doesn't own their own home or a qualifying rental, there are several programs to help pay utility bills.
The Federal Energy Assistance Program, it's available every winter, late fall actually, from about November until the end of June. No disconnect notice required, just your income eligibility and your need to go do this application, which indeed is a process. Then City Light has its own emergency program that steps in after you've used the federal dollars. After those two are done, you can come and talk to us about Project Share. These are actual payments on your bill. Low-income folks have many places to take their dollars, and the electric bill billed every 2 months might not factor into the equation until it's a critical issue. Don't wait until they're standing at the door. Call us and talk about what you might do. Call the utility. Ask them what they'll work for you. They'll refer you to us. They'll give you a way to stay out of a disconnect status. It's very much easier to keep your lights on than to get them back on after they've turned them off. Then you've got serious credit issues that may be insurmountable for us.
So don't wait until the last moment. Call now, 206-684-3000 for help on all your utility bills.
For a variety of reasons, the Northwest is facing an energy crisis, and that has made the topic of energy conservation very important. Now here at home, there are plenty of things you can do to conserve energy, but over here, you have apartment buildings, and there are plenty of things that renters can do to conserve energy too. It starts with the apartment buildings themselves. For instance, here at the Carlisle on Capitol Hill, the owner got a discount for installing new windows, according to Seattle City Lights' Ann Ducey.
The Carlisle apartment was retrofitted with energy-efficient windows. All the windows in the background that you see here were retrofitted with double-pane windows.
And double-pane windows are very energy efficient, partly because the inner layer is often filled with an insulating gas, like argon.
Basically, it increased the efficiency of the units anywhere between 10 and 20%.
And that saves money. Apartment renters can learn more about this program by making a simple call.
Well, all they would have to do is call our conservation hotline at 684-3800, that's area code 206, and get some information sent to them that they could pass along to their owner or to their landlord.
But to get an even more hands-on explanation on how to conserve energy in an apartment, we went to the Park Villa and visited Kelly Martin.
Hi, you Kelly?
Hi, I am.
Hi, I'm Ann Ducey. I'm here from Seattle City Light.
Hi, come
here
on
to talk
in.
about some energy conservation tips. Well, the single most important thing to keep your energy bills down is obviously turning your heat off at night and when you're not home.
Right.
And another really neat device that you can use to replace this thermostat is one that has a little thermostat on it.
Like this one, which is very accurate. Compared to the old thermostat, the new one will set the temperature you dial in much more exactly.
Even 1 degree, actually just 1 degree can save you 3% a year.
That's
So
significant.
It's very significant.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Next stop, the bathroom.
I was wondering if you've heard of a bathroom faucet aerator.
Yes, I have.
Oh,
and
great.
and I have used those.
Oh, wonderful. Did you get this from
I
our
did get
kit?
the conservation kit and installed those in both the kitchen and the bathroom.
Oh, fantastic. So you already have one installed. Excellent. So you know that these use just 1 gallon a minute.
Very low. Yep.
Great. So how do you like it? How do you like the pressure?
I don't even notice a difference, honestly. It seems like it's the same pressure.
You can also save $5 to $10 a year just by installing a faucet aerator. And taking shorter showers can also be a big cost saver. Kelly is...
Appreciate the views, the wonderful proximity to downtown. It's great for people to work downtown, live nearby. And so we are very, very proud of this successful project. We have a presentation by John Flynn from the City of Seattle Built Smart program.
Sort of in a position, I think I always feel like I'm in this position where we're kind of in here last. And I'm kind of humbled by all the energy that it takes to even get a project like this built. I'm kind of a nuts and bolts guy, and what we come in here to do is try to help this project be built as efficiently as it possibly can be, so the affordability extends through the life of the project through making it more energy efficient. I congratulate and commend Sharon and Lehigh for not just building a building, but building a building in the best and most sustainable fashion that they can, and that's what I would like to recognize the Built Smart program. We partner with Lehigh and bring some money into the project in order for them to do this, and that money that we invest in this project, in this case $40,000, is going to pay City Light back and the residents of this project back and the citizens of Seattle back over the full life of this project. The reduction in heat cost alone is estimated to be about 40% for each residence here in electric heat. So as electric rates continue to rise, by participating in this program, Lehigh has ensured that effect is going to be minimized on the tenants here. And thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you.
And this is really are in another energy crisis. I think we're just beginning to recognize that. It's not just at the gasoline pump or natural gas, it's electricity, it's across the board. All of the energy sources that we have presently, certainly in this area and in this region, are increasing in price even as we speak. And depending on what happens with the weather and with the power markets, all those could be just the beginning. We are at a situation where we're basically maxed out in our ability to produce power, and we've had a tremendous amount of growth, and so we're really at the situation where we don't have enough power for the needs. And the answer to that for everybody is to conserve more. For everybody from the people who are at the bottom of the economic rung all the way to the top, that we need to pull together as a community and see that we need, in order to help each other, to conserve across the board. The heart of it is we have a requirement for additional insulation other than what would be required by minimal code. And what that does, of course, is save energy. So the walls, the ceilings, the floors are all better insulated. And we've taken that requirement to what we feel is the most cost-effective increase given our climate and the cost of our situation. We also require higher efficiency windows, which is part of the shell of the building, as you were, part of making the insulation of the building more efficient. This also in turn does something else. It makes the building more comfortable. It makes the building much more evenly heated. There's no drafts. And we also, in addition to actually requiring that the insulation be installed, we have a very stringent quality control program so that we inspect every step of the installation of this. And that has worked out very well with the builders because they appreciate the additional quality control that we offer to the project. So not only is there additional insulation here, but the way it is installed and the way the building is put together is actually better than a normal building because of the additional inspection and quality control. Additionally, we require, because this is electrically heated, a much more accurate thermostat. This means that when somebody sets their thermostat at 70 degrees, that's going to hold that temperature in this unit at 70 degrees or 68 degrees, wherever you set it. There's not going to be a large temperature swing, and it's going to be a much more comfortable environment for them. The idea with that, too, in terms of saving energy, if they don't have large swings in their thermostat and in the temperature of the room, they're going to keep their thermostat set a little lower because they're going to be comfortable at the setting that they set it at rather than having the thermostat droop down and be cooler. Additionally, require energy efficient fluorescent lighting. So this again both saves energy and it also creates a situation where the tenant is not having to replace the light bulbs nearly as often. You know, this uses about 25% of the energy of an incandescent light, and it
I'd like to turn this over to Pete Spalding. Pete is the 2006 chair of the City Neighborhood Council, and he's going to be chairing or moderating the panel on health, human services, and housing. So if you have a question for that group, please give it to him. And then he will be introducing one of our speakers and giving you some background about our advisory committees.
Thanks, Chris. First of all, I'd like to Chris doesn't want me to do this, but I want to thank Chris and his committee for all of their hard work in putting this on today, because this just didn't happen overnight. So let's give Chris and his committee a round of applause. I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize some folks in our audience today. First of all is the Director of the Department of Neighborhoods, Yvonne Sanchez. From the Police Department, the Deputy Chief, Clark Kimmer. From the Fire Department, the Chief, Gregory Dean. We have the Superintendent of our Parks Department, Ken Bounds. And then, of course, we're going to meet him, but we have the Director of the Department of Finance, Dwight Dively. So once again, thanks for coming, and welcome to the City Neighborhood Council's annual Citizens Budget Conference. On behalf of the CNC, I want to welcome you and thank you for investing your time today in making the neighborhoods of Seattle better places for all of our neighbors to live. For those of you that might not be acquainted with the City Neighborhood Council, I would like to give you a little history of our organization. The City Neighborhood Council, or as we like to call it, the CNC, is a citizen-led advisory group comprised of elected members from each of the city's 13 districts. We're organized under the authority of Seattle City Council Resolution 27709, which was adopted in October of 1987. Subsequent resolutions have refined and altered the initial resolution. The CNC's primary purpose is to provide citywide coordination for the Neighborhood Matching Fund, neighborhood budget prioritization, and neighborhood planning programs. The CNC also provides a forum for a discussion of common neighborhood issues and is available for advice on policies necessary for the effective and equitable implementation of the Neighborhood Planning and Assistance Program. The City Neighborhood Council's monthly meetings are open to the public. Our next meeting will be Monday night beginning at 6:30 p.m. and we meet in the main conference room at the West Precinct. And our guest this week will be our newly elected president of the Seattle City Council, Nick Licata. Today, as we discuss issues of importance to all of our neighborhoods, from street improvements to bettering our parks, major transportation needs throughout the city, zoning issues, improving library hours, and numerous other topics that will be covered, I want to take a minute to ensure that we also do not lose sight of our responsibility as stewards of our neighborhood plans. We must continue to work to implement the elements of these plans that have not been completed. We must also remain vigilant in bringing forth ideas to the city. We cannot just sit back and be reactionary to what the mayor and the city council bring forth as policy and legislation. It is incumbent upon us to also bring forth ideas that we feel are in the best interest of our neighborhoods. We must continue to work hard to make our neighborhoods great places for all of the citizens of Seattle. Finally, if you are not engaged in Seattle's district council system, I would encourage you to go to our website and locate the information for your district and become involved. Without broad participation from a wide range of our citizens, we cannot be as an effective organization as we could be. So once again, thank you very much for coming and investing your Saturday with us. And at this time, I would like to introduce the Deputy Mayor of the City of Seattle, Tim Sees.
morning, and thanks for being here early on a Saturday morning. And I want to thank Chris and Pete for putting all this on for us to be able to come out here and talk to you about the budget. First of all, Pete, you missed a couple of our department directors. I want to point out Patricia McInturf, Human Services Department. Adrian Quinn from our Department of Housing. And our host today, Virginia Anderson from the Seattle Center. So thank you again for being here today. We're getting ready, and the reason we're all here is we're getting ready to put together the next biennial budget. And you have to remember, too, the city does a biennial budget. This is going to be the 07-08 budget year for us. Every year we go back and adjust it because there are always unforeseen circumstances that come up, but we do adopt a 2-year budget. You know, the last 4 years, starting in 2002, were fairly difficult for the city. I think everybody remembers that we've been in a recession, revenues were down, and the city had to cut a significant amount of spending out of its budget. I think total we were about $120 million over that 3-year period of time. It was just last year that revenues started going up again, that we saw an economic recovery and we started seeing modest revenue growth. Now, of course, the media thought that we were just overflowing in our coffers with money. I kept reading about $50 million in surplus funds that the city had to deal with. I wish I had been able to see those surplus funds somewhere, Dwight. I want to know where you were hiding them from all of us. That wasn't really the case. Most of that money that was available to the city last year was one-time money. And that's one-time means it's never coming again. It's money that was in excess of our revenue projections and probably won't repeat, or it was savings from other areas of spending. And so it's money that you don't want to invest in ongoing programs because you can't sustain the spending. And that's really an important part when you're thinking over your priorities here today, that you have to think that when you make an investment in a program or a service, you want to continue it year to year. You don't want to just fund it 1 year and then see it stop the next. And that's a very important budgeting principle that the mayor looks at, sustainability. And I know the council has that as a very high priority for themselves as well. Can we sustain the new initiative over time? Or is it going to come at the expense of some other priority? And those are the kind of balances you need to consider as you're looking at your priorities. And that's what today is really about. We want to hear from you about your priorities. You all hear from us all the time about the mayor's priorities or about the council's priorities. And we want to be informed today about what your priorities are in the neighborhoods. Now, one of the things we do have money to work with is the capital programs. And I know a lot of people are interested about improvements in the neighborhoods, either in the streets or the parks or wherever. And that is an area where the city has some real flexibility in terms of how we spend our money. Our capital budget for the 6-year period is about $3 billion in total across all the funds. It's a lot of money. A lot of that's in the utility funds, a lot of it's in transportation, and a lot of it's in parks. But that's where the ability, you have a strong ability to influence the decisions we're going to make on what investments to make in the city. Now, this year, for the first time, we have a new form, a new process for doing that, that's going to allow public involvement. Online and at the neighborhood service centers, and I think at libraries too, we're going to have a form, very simple one, for you or any other citizen to describe a capital project, an improvement they would like to have in their neighborhood, where that's at, what kind of improvement it is, whether it's a transportation improvement, a park improvement, or whatever, and submit that to us. Then that'll be reviewed by all our departments. It'll be reviewed by the district councils. We'll get some recommendations back from the departments and the district councils about which of these projects seem worthy. And then yeah, you have the form right there, yeah. And we'll use those in our final recommendations to the council. So I guess we have some of those forms in the back right now. Again, they'll be online and they'll be available at neighborhood service centers. This way we hope to get a lot more public participation in looking at what kind of capital programs and improvements people want in their neighborhoods. So with that, I'm going to end. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember McIver. I just want to say the last couple of years working with Councilman McIver as chair of the Budget Committee has just been a wonderful experience for the Department of Finance and for the Mayor's Office. We've had a very good relationship, and I think some of the best processes in budget review that I've ever been involved in my almost 20 years in government. So I really want to thank you for that, Councilman, and I want to say how much I appreciate the Council's thoughtful deliberations we've had dealing with what was really a tough fiscal crisis for the city.
This project. So that is an outline, and staff are going to go through some of the components in the memo that we've sent to you and be ready for discussion.
Great. Okay.
Let me apologize for running a little late. I had difficulty finding a place to park. I'm Billy Jack. I'm with Seattle Department of Transportation. I guess I wanted to say one of my primary areas of responsibility is managing on-street parking and curb space use. And I've learned over time that parking is like gold. You know, the more you have, the more you want. If you don't have enough, you certainly want to get more. And there's nothing that can create an emotional sort of conflict in the community than to have ill-advised parking changes. Parking meters are intended to provide customer turnover parking in areas where there's a dense business space and at the same time generate revenue for purposes of public safety and you know, other sorts of city uses. The key factors for installing parking meters are the dense business areas that need to turn over parking, and at the same time where it's unlikely that the parking would overflow or spill over into the residential neighborhoods. Some of the other factors that are necessary are there needs to be curbs and sidewalks, and most of the time we prefer to have improved planting strips as opposed to sod. We've worked with the Belltown Business District during this last year and installed approximately 115 meters, more than in any other previous single year since the 80s. So we put out a pretty good effort in that area alone last year. An aggressive effort to install parking meters such as this that we're going to embark on is unparalleled in more than 3 decades. And certainly we all want this to succeed. What is the measurement of success? The measurement of success, the way I see it, would be at the end of the year that the business community says, geez, we're sure glad you put these meters in. You know, our businesses have gone up, our citizens, our customers aren't complaining that they can't find a place to park anymore, and that they can find available parking. Success also means to the city that the customers are in fact using those meters, and revenue has increased, and the likelihood of the B&O taxes have increased, and the results also lend credibility to city government. On the other hand, if parking meters go in areas that may not be as appropriate, where they sit empty, where the businesses suffer, where the B&O tax is likely to reduce, where the parking meter revenue doesn't in fact occur, then we have failed. And the last thing we want to have is failure in this unparalleled challenge. Not that many years ago, we removed more than 100 meters out of the West Seattle Business District in an effort to revitalize that business district. So dealing with parking meters really is an involvement that we need to share with the communities, and we need some level of discussion or consultation with those areas that we would, I guess, opt to install meters in.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the work that we've been doing since November, since the SLI was adopted. We've been working really diligently to figure out the best way to add more parking meters in Seattle's business districts. And exactly the work that Billy outlined. I think I want to point out that it really matters where you put them, and we want to make sure that they go in the right places. So I'm going to be talking about the potential community outreach options, potential areas for new meters, and then a schedule for installation, and the information that was provided in the memo. So we outline 3 potential options for community outreach. They range from option 1 in the memo, which was to provide a public notice where we basically alert businesses that meters will be installed forthwith. On the other end of the spectrum would be option 3, which is the existing petition process, where a majority of property owners sign a petition. And a process pretty much, and when Tom Graff was speaking in Belltown, that's what he was referring to. Option 2 in the middle would have SDOT staff attend business and community meetings with a proposal where you could talk to them and refine the potential meter installation proposal in a particular area, engage community support or the receptiveness to the businesses, ask questions about, maybe where load zones need to go, and just to get their feedback. Now, we anticipate using the existing petition process unless the City Council, unless you want to authorize a change in our existing practice. So the second question is where should we put them? And in the analysis that we've done, we looked far beyond South Downtown and South Lake Union, and initially over about 45 business areas that already have some parking signs or might be good candidates for meters. And in the memo, we outlined how that we group these areas into 3 categories: high, medium, and low for potential for meters. And really, the high and medium areas, could over the next so many years work for meters, although in the medium areas we don't have parking data, and so we would need to do a little more analysis to figure out if they're really appropriate areas and where specifically in those neighborhoods. We did find 4 areas that we outlined in the memo, plus one that I want to talk about briefly: Uptown, Denny Triangle, Belltown, which is the downtown area, First Hill, Pike Pine. And then the International District also appear really promising for blocks within those business districts where meters really could work. All those areas have meters right now. They also have 1- to 2-hour parking signs, and there's blocks of unrestricted parking next to retail and commercial businesses, the areas that need parking demand, and they're probably where commuters and employees are parking to get into downtown Seattle. Now, these are preliminary recommendations, and we don't have specific streets planned out, but that would be our next step. Now, the statement of legislative intent called out looking at South Lake Union and South Downtown, and after analysis that we did, we really don't think those are appropriate areas for short-term parking meters at this time. In South Downtown, there's really a lack of there's a substantial amount of customer parking demand. Areas where people want to park for 1 or 2 hours. There's also a large amount of free on and off street parking. So, and when Billy talked about spillover, that people can easily avoid the parking meters and park elsewhere, and then the meters would sit empty. And there's also streets without sidewalks, which makes it difficult, pretty much impossible to put the parking meters in. Now, in South Lake Union, there's a tremendous amount of plan development and transportation planning efforts that are going on right now to analyze different street designs. And it really it made it difficult to program parking meter locations at this time. And similarly to South Downtown, there's a tremendous amount of free on-street parking in the area that would make spillover likely. So we would recommend, we are looking more at the areas of Uptown, Belltown, Denny Triangle, First Hill, Pike Pine, and the International District for areas to put the 300 parking meters. In terms of the schedule, our next steps are, if necessary, to work with you to revise the community outreach practices. We also do some further refinement of where the parking meters should go. In spring and summer, depending on the community outreach options, we would do that work. And then the meter design and installation would follow that. So option 1, which was the public notice, would happen pretty quickly, so the meters could be, we could start installation in the summer. Option 3, it takes a little more time to collect the petitions, so that's more of a fall or winter design and installation. And then option 2 is somewhere, in the middle, likely in the fall. Now, Tracy's going to talk about the pay station effort as well.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Why did you choose, or have you chosen the petition process? I thought I heard you say we would use the petition process.
I think they said unless directed by the
Unless
council.
directed.
Mhm.
Yes.
We're
That's
talking
your-
about using our
your
current
default,
practice unless
right.
there's
Yeah,
a change.
Exactly.
Although you have the legal authority to do differently.
Smart cards right now are being talked about primarily just in terms of paying for parking. We would have the future capacity to integrate it with using the same smart card to pay for parking, or to pay for transit use. I think the Muni Courts is interested in looking at, could you use a smart card to pay for your citation, your fine there? There are, numerous examples that you could use the same pay card technology to pay with.
Put your property taxes on it.
Exactly. I think one of the other things, I know Portland is looking to this, is that the kiosk being out there on the street, they're looking to the future where that could be an information kiosk for the public. You could get maps up on it and see, provide directions where we want to go. I mean, conceivably, you could look at putting transit schedules up there as well.
Sure. Put a printer on it and people could pay money and print them out.
So by accelerating our efforts to strategically invest in pay stations this year, we hope to capitalize on the growing public interest in this new technology, and in the process, we plan to create a success story from both a parking revenue and a parking management perspective over the next several years.
Great. Is that all? Great. Well, I have a number of questions. I'm sure my colleagues do too. So, all right. Let me first start off by asking about the areas that you're proposing for top candidate areas for new meters. Do you have an idea of how many spaces you would be metering in each one of those areas in a ballpark?
Well, we've talked about installing about 300 meters that we have. And so we still have to figure out where exactly within those they would go. We haven't made that.
So you haven't made a decision that there's only 300 spaces in those 4 areas. It could very well be more than that.
Yes, that's quite possible.
So what you're saying is you now have 300 meters that you want to install, but can you buy some new meters? I mean, let's suppose that you go do the evaluation of those 4 areas and you discover that there's 400 or 500 spaces that you would like to meter. This is an option then to acquire additional meters or to use meters displaced by the pay station technologies.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's what we would look at is when we take the meters out with the pay station to redeploy them in, this would be the areas we would put them.
Is it kind of your philosophy at this point that we're not going to invest in new meters except the pay stations, so that basically we'll be putting new meters in as the pay stations replace old meters? Is that essentially where we're looking at? Well, the one concern I have about that is the fact that we have a number of meters that are fairly obsolete at this time, the old sort of mechanical meters. And so as those go out, you probably don't want to repost them anywhere.
No, and there are about 4,000 of those or so.
Yeah. So how fast can we get pay stations in? How many spaces can we cover?
Well, just by example, the city of Portland is looking to replace about 95% of their 7,000 standard meters with pay stations. They originally started out with a 5-year schedule, but they've been so successful that they've accelerated it to a 2-year implementation schedule. We have about 8,700 or so metered spaces in the city right now, and it probably does not make sense to replace all of those. I don't know that we would reach the 95% target that the city of Portland's striving for, but there are economies of scale that need to be achieved in certain areas. But we'll be looking at that. I think the main determinant of their schedule will actually be the financing mechanism that's chosen to fund and keep the process moving. We'll look at a range of options from, some debt financing to the vendor, the vendor carrying the paper on it, sort of lease to own, pay them back out of revenues type thing. We'll have to look at a wide range of financing mechanisms.
Well, I'm just going to give you a hypothetical number here then. So if we've got 8,700 metered spaces, let's assume that you were able to replace 2/3 of them roughly with the pay stations ultimately. So that'd be 6,000 pay stations. So that would allow you to eliminate the 4,000 mechanical meters and still have 2,000 more to redeploy to additional spaces. So I don't know if you've got 2,000 additional spaces, and I guess that's really the other part of the question is where you can identify the spaces that you might actually want to meter.
They could also use them for backup for repairing, maintenance on existing.
That's correct.
Some spares.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask a couple
And
questions.
we do maintain right up to the minute timing, don't we?
Absolutely.
I knew you would say that.
No question. Let me ask a couple questions about South Downtown and South Lake Union. First of all, on South Downtown, on First Avenue South, on the stadium side, there are meters, and on the non-stadium side, there are not meters on some of those blocks.